The winter weather pattern across the United States is about to shift into a much more active and significantly colder configuration. After a relatively mild start to January for many areas, the tropospheric polar vortex is repositioning itself in a way that's going to deliver persistent cold air and multiple winter storm opportunities through the rest of the month. If you've been waiting for winter to truly arrive, particularly along the East Coast and I-95 corridor, the next 2 weeks are going to demand your attention. Let me break down exactly what's developing and why this pattern has me genuinely excited. Looking at seasonal snowfall totals so far, we can see where winter has already made its presence known. Mountain locations across the West have accumulated impressive totals. The upper Midwest got hit early in the season. Lake effect snow has been running strong across the Great Lakes region. Parts of the Ohio Valley have cashed in at times, and New England has seen some decent snowfall events. But for many areas, particularly along the major East Coast metropolitan corridor, winter has been largely absent. That's about to change. The key to everything that follows is the tropospheric polar vortex. By the middle of next week, this massive cold air circulation is going to set up shop directly over Hudson Bay in Canada. When the polar vortex parks itself in that position, it becomes our primary cold air source for the northern and eastern United States. This isn't a brief visit either. The vortex is expected to remain in that favorable position through the rest of January, which means the cold air tap stays turned on for an extended period. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now, let's move on. The atmospheric pattern is already transitioning. Right now, we see a building ridge of high pressure across the Pacific Northwest, while lower pressure and troughing develops over eastern Canada. As we push through this week, that configuration amplifies dramatically. The western ridge flexes its muscles while the eastern trough deepens. This classic ridge-west, trough-east setup is exactly what winter weather enthusiasts look for. It funnels Arctic air southward into the eastern states and steers storm systems along tracks favorable for East Coast snowfall. In the immediate term, lake effect snow and snow squalls are affecting southeastern Canada and the eastern Great Lakes today, eventually pushing into the northeast this evening. A clipper system arrives Tuesday morning, diving down from Canada and spreading snow across the upper peninsula of Michigan, Ontario, and Quebec. This clipper track off the northwest flow continues through Tuesday evening, though temperatures warm enough that some areas in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, Chicago, Indianapolis, and St. Louis might see rain mixing in or taking over. Total snowfall through Wednesday morning shows the heaviest accumulation across southeastern Canada, but meaningful lake effect snow bands will set up across western and upstate New York, upper Michigan, and lower Michigan. Some narrow zones where lake effect maximizes could see several inches of accumulation through midweek. Thursday morning, January 15th, marks the arrival of our first significant storm system. A deepening area of low pressure develops across the eastern United States as a major trough carves into the region. The European model shows this evolving into a New England snowstorm threat, with snow developing from western Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio up through New York, particularly western and upstate sections, into Vermont, New Hampshire, and northwest Maine. As colder air wraps in on the backside of this system Friday morning, the European model shows snow showers reaching the I-95 corridor, including New York City, Hartford, Providence, and Boston. This is where things get interesting for the major metropolitan areas that have been waiting for winter weather. The GFS model runs even stronger with this system, showing a more impressive 992 millibar low in the northeast. That deeper low pressure promises more snowfall than the European solution. The GFS also shows the potential for the polar jet from the north and subtropical energy from the south to phase together across the northeast. When that happens, you get the setup for a major East Coast snowstorm, including the I-95 corridor. Following this initial system, the pattern doesn't quiet down. Clipper systems continue tracking through every couple of days, diving down off the persistent northwest flow. The combination of these frequent clippers with established cold air means nearly continuous winter weather opportunities for the Great Lakes region. while the Northeast remains in the zone for additional significant events. Looking at the ensemble guidance, which averages multiple model runs together to give us a sense of the most likely outcome, the signal for Great Lakes lake effect snow is very strong. New England's snowstorm threats show up clearly. Southeastern Canada remains active with the combination of East Coast storms and Canadian clipper systems colliding in the region. The further south and west you go from this active zone, the lower your snow chances become through the next 10 days. The temperature pattern tells a compelling story. Monday and Tuesday feature a last blast of warmth across the middle of the country. Enjoy it while it lasts, because what follows is dramatically different. By mid to late week, cold air floods the eastern seaboard behind the first storm system. Then a second surge arrives, bringing even more intense cold to the Midwest and Ohio Valley by the weekend. Here's the key point about temperatures. The cold air sticks around. This isn't a brief Arctic intrusion that moderates quickly. Through late January, the blues and greens indicating below normal temperatures remain firmly established across southeastern Canada and the Northeast. Even areas further south like Arkansas and Tennessee, while generally milder, will see cold shots late in the week and into next weekend. Wind chills are going to be a major story with this pattern. Alaska is currently experiencing minus 70-degree readings in some locations. As we push through the week, sub-zero wind chills march southward into the upper Midwest Wednesday and Thursday. By Friday, that bitter cold reaches the Northeast and New England. The weekend brings an even stronger shot, with wind chills dropping into the minus 20s across the upper Midwest. Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and Monday morning all feature potentially dangerous cold across the northern tier. For the final week of January, the 24th through 31st, the pattern remains favorable for winter weather in the east. A trough persists over western Canada, maintaining that northwesterly flow in the upper levels. The southern states and plains will run milder more often than not, but cold air continues reaching the Great Lakes and Northeast with regularity. This ongoing cold favors continued lake effect snow production and maintains the setup for additional East Coast storm opportunities. So what does this mean for specific areas? The Great Lakes region is entering an extended active period. Lake effect snow bands will fire repeatedly whenever northwest flow establishes behind passing systems. Given the unfrozen state of the lakes and the persistent cold air supply, accumulation totals could pile up impressively over the coming weeks. New England is positioned for multiple significant snowfall events. The Clipper track brings frequent light to moderate snow, while the potential for phase storms connecting northern and southern energy streams creates opportunities for major accumulation. This region has the highest ceiling for impressive totals through the rest of January. The I-95 corridor from Philadelphia through Boston faces the most uncertainty, but also considerable potential. The Thursday through Friday system bears watching closely as cold air wraps in. Additional opportunities exist through late January as the pattern remains favorable. If you've been disappointed by the lack of snow so far this winter in the major East Coast cities, don't lose hope. The atmospheric setup over the next 2 weeks gives multiple chances for meaningful accumulation along the coast. The Midwest will deal with the coldest temperatures and wind chills, along with frequent clipper passages. While individual events may not produce blockbuster totals, the cumulative effect of repeated light snow events combined with brutal cold creates genuinely wintry conditions. The southern states remain on the periphery of this pattern. Cold shots will reach as far south as Arkansas and Tennessee at times, but the truly impactful winter weather stays focused further north. For areas like Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, getting significant cold air will be more challenging in this configuration. The West sits this pattern out almost entirely. That dominant ridge keeps conditions mild and dry from the Pacific Northwest through California and the Southwest. Mountain areas will see snow when disturbances manage to work around the ridge, but the lowlands remain largely unaffected. This is the kind of pattern that can define the second half of winter. The polar vortex positioning over Hudson Bay, the persistent ridge west and trough east configuration, the frequent clipper passages, all of these elements combine to create an extended period of genuine winter weather for the eastern United States. We're not talking about isolated events, but rather a fundamental shift in the atmospheric regime that favors cold and snow through the rest of January. I'll be tracking every development as this pattern evolves. The next 2 weeks promise to be significantly more interesting than what we've experienced so far this winter, and for those who have been waiting for snow along the East Coast, your patience may finally be rewarded.